It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchene. Thanks a lot for joining us. Like I say every week, don't forget the coronavirus is still a pandemic. A lot of people are still being killed by this virus out there. So I hope you're doing what you should be doing. Staying at home if you don't have to go anywhere. If you have to go out, please wear a mask, socially distance from people, wash your hands, sanitize. We can't say this enough. I mean, the NCDC keeps on releasing data every week. It looks like mere numbers, but these are actually human beings that are being infected and dying. So please, whatever you can do to stay safe, please play your part. Today we're going to be talking about inclusion in governance and leadership for young people. And I have here with me Apostle Georgia. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a very loaded topic. I feel like the more we talk about it, the more sometimes some people feel disillusioned, almost as if it's not ever going to be a reality. I mean, the not too young to run law was passed. People got excited, but the elections happened and the numbers and the figures didn't look particularly exciting. How are you feeling about the inclusion of young people in politics, in elections, in governance so far? I mean, we have a few elections coming up in Edo State and others. Are you excited? Are you still a little sort of disappointed with what's happening? So,
when it comes to inclusion for young people, as you already alluded to, I think that Not Too Young to Run did a really good job in, first of all, putting it on the agenda, right? So the issues were not even on the agenda. But in terms of the results from the elections, I think that that's what we can call what Not Too Young to Run did, the start of a journey, right? And what I would expect is that come 2023, we will have more young people running, right? So it's almost like a pipeline, right? They have sparked a fire. It was too close to the election, to be honest. So for me, what success would have looked like is that they put the matter on the agenda, got a bill passed, and so that has been done. Now, young people need to start preparing themselves so that in 2023, we have those names on the ballot, right? But I think that there's now a larger issue, and that's women.
Which is what I was going to get to. I mean, you're the founder of Elect Her, and that looks like an even more elusive, if you look at, I mean, the Nigerian National Assembly, for one, is almost like, what is going on here? What is going on here?
To be honest, what is going on is that as a country, we haven't acknowledged what we could be losing by leaving behind and not tapping into 49% of our population, right? So women make up 49% of this country's population. Ideally, a political system, right, should be representative of the people in society. We have men, we have women, we have young people, right? We have people living with disabilities. But unfortunately, this hasn't translated, whether it's in the legislative, in the executive. Now, as I said, what is happening is that we haven't acknowledged the potential, right? Development, change, transformation that we could have as a nation when we get more women into these positions of power.
There was an argument with the last elections that said there were a few young people who ran for office and young people did not even vote for them. It's like you guys are not even serious or ready to support your... Same thing happened with women. We had, for example, I think Obieze Kwesili did try to run at the time. It didn't. People believed women didn't even show support enough to her. Very, very banal argument. But is it a case of people not being ready to vote for women, you think?
No, so I'll tell you what it is. This issue of women's representation and leadership, right, is a systemic challenge, right? And so we have to be dealing with it almost like from diagnostic to treating the symptoms and then to curing the problem. Do you see what I mean? So if you're only coming at it from one angle, then there's a problem. So you're talking about women, people who have typically seen male leadership and have come to accept it as the norm. And all of a sudden, you're asking them to vote for a woman. There is a lot of work that we need to do when it comes to behavioral change communication, right? So if I take Elect Her and its model, we call it the first end-to-end initiative that wants to promote women's political representation. The reason we say end-to-end is because we've thought about the real issues. There's stereotypes, right? So how do you deal with those stereotypes? How do you change society's perception of a woman? And society saying the political landscape does not belong to a woman. There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
How do we encourage women themselves, right, who have not been playing in this terrain, who see it as a place of violence, right, as a place for, I interviewed Patutomi talking about the same thing recently, and he said a place where ruffians play. How do women get in that game?
Yeah.
So there's the work we need to do to encourage women, right, to even decide to get involved, right? And then the next level for us is how do we equip women, all right, to run? Now, by equipping, we mean a lot of women are competent. We've seen it with women in business and women entrepreneurs and women in careers, right? But the truth is there are other things, right? There's negotiation, there's communication skills, there's interpersonal skills. How do we equip women to run? And most importantly, unless we are deceiving ourselves, how do we enable them with money?
Yeah, the money conversation is very important.
So that's the whole idea.
Yeah, something you mentioned there, which is a lot of people have also said, I mean, it looks like women are not built for politics, especially the way it's run in Nigeria. I mean, even in the United States, we heard Hillary Clinton complain a lot about, politicking when she was running for office, certain times she couldn't afford to attend meetings or certain meetings she couldn't go into just because she was a mother or she was a woman. There's that argument here, especially in Nigeria. We know when these things happen at midnight or at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Not many 30, 40-year-olds who have kids at home, unfortunately, will be able to wake up and be in those spaces. Do you think the way politics is run or built in Nigeria is a problem for women?
Absolutely. So there was a very interesting story about the US Congress and the floors literally not being built for women to wear heels. Like literally.
Simple things like that.
Yes, because it was designed and built by men, right? So that's what we're saying. It's systemic and it's fundamental.
Yeah. So how do we start
why
this?
should the meeting hold at midnight? That's the question we should ask ourselves. Can that meeting really not hold during the day? It's a question, right? Yes. I mean, prior to COVID-19, we never thought that world leaders will be having Zoom meetings with all of their cabinets, right? But it happened, and nobody died.
Yes.
So we have just learned a new way of doing things, unfortunately, due to a pandemic. But what this has taught us is that we all need to be changing our ways and adapting, whatever that means and in whatever context.
Yeah.
So we need to change the system, right, to be able to accommodate more women. We're not saying, because now that's the next argument, are we saying the women should be given, is like tokenism? No, that's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is that the same way we're asking workers flexi work. So a lot of workers who commute long hours have been asking to work from home. But some organizations said no. All of a sudden, we're all doing it, right?
We're joined now via Skype by Rebecca Enobong Roberts, I think from London. Rebecca, how are you doing? Thanks a lot for joining us. We've been talking here today about women inclusion, basically in governance and politics and leadership. But I want to talk about culture. And there's always a cultural argument here, and sometimes even religion, and how that probably affects the way women will be able to participate effectively in politics and governance here in Nigeria. How much of a factor is that, and how do we start the conversation to sort of reorientate ourselves?
Hi, Ebuka. Nice talking to you. I don't know. I think globally, there's never a culture that is accepting of minority groups, women included. So it's a conversation that is not just peculiar to Nigeria. It's all over the world. People don't want to see women, minority groups in position of authority for obvious reason. It's about oppression, right? But then I think in terms of our own culture, I mean, our culture is, we're updating our culture, we're updating our religious practices, and it's all about education. Are we educating people as to why women have to be in positions of authority? Are we educating the women themselves? Because I mean, like your guest rightly said, when Auntie Obi was running for politics, for presidency, there were lots of women that were saying, why does she want to run for office? We're not ready for this. So I think beyond our culture, I mean, we're updating our culture as we go. Our religions are also shifting and changing to accommodate the present time. So I think the same in politics. If we're trying to get more women into positions of authority, then we need to educate the women, we need to educate our society, and it's going to be, unfortunately, an ongoing thing.
There's even the argument that, I mean, the presidency is a great thing, we know, but I mean, there's so much more than the presidency when we talk about politics. We've not even had a female governor elected, in this country. You look at even the state houses of assembly, you find one or two out of about 30 sometimes. With those offices even, why is it still a problem, to be able to crack that before we even talk about going to the highest office? And the how is very, very important to me, because I know we need to reorientate, but how do we start that reorientation for Nigerians?
I think we need to start by even understanding the barriers that face women in politics. So, for example, holding meetings at midnight, do they have to be, meetings at midnight? No. And if we're serious, if a political party, if a state government, even the young people and the women themselves, if we're serious about politics and women participation, then we need to start looking at things realistically. What is the biggest challenge? I would personally say the biggest challenge beyond cultural superiority of men have to be in power. Money is the problem. How do we support more women? So, for example, if you have a woman on the ballot box to get the ticket of a party, the chances of her getting it is 0 to nothing. So as long as we're still looking at it as women come out and they compete for these tickets in a way that men compete, and we're not looking at actively trying to bring these women in, we're still having the wrong conversation.
Yeah. A question to both of you, but I'll start with you, Rebecca, before I come to you, Abosede. The money conversation, of course, both of you have mentioned money now. And we can't talk about money and politics in Nigeria without talking about godfathers. We do have a couple of successful women in careers in Nigeria who are doing very well. Do we need godmothers at this point? Do we need women to start putting their money where their mouth is with regards to politics, you think?
I think godfatherism is outdated, so we shouldn't be trying to create godmotherism.
But it's a reality. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
It is a reality, but we need to demystify that reality because it's never worked for us, especially in Nigeria. So in terms of getting more women in positions of authority, we need to start looking at ways to crowdsource for women to get into politics. We need to start having conversations with the political parties who come up to say, oh yeah, we want a woman leader. Don't make them compete on the same level with the men, because if I'm not sure how much the candidacy form is, if we really want a woman to get it, people will crowdsource money for her to get it. Yeah. If we look at campaigning in terms of even after she gets the ticket, how does she win her constituency? We will look for ways for us to crowdsource funds for her, as opposed to leaving it, because in realistic terms, she doesn't have the political leg to gather all these funds and get all these people behind her. So if we're serious about women in politics, we need to be realistic about money.
I was saying the same question to you. You mentioned money as well. It looks like she's talking there about a lot of godfathers and godmothers coming together. Is that a realistic? Because the godfathers are there, whether we like it or not.
So, and I always say, to be honest, in a lot of places, the cabals are there as well. I think that's still a reality of the world. However, I think that one of the things that we need to do is educate women about the business of politics. And there is a business of politics. So it's understanding that you don't have to be the one on the ballot. But you can be the one funding, right? So it's to break down the value chain of political leadership, right? And make women understand that you can play different roles. That technically would be the new form of, to her point, godfatherism and godmotherism, because it's bringing your weight, your power, your influence, right, to ensure that we get the result that we want. So for some women, that might be media buy. For some women, it might be them in a position where they can actually bring out cash. It might be different things, but there is a whole value chain that women can contribute.
I like to learn lessons. And what did Rwanda, for example, do right? What kind of lessons can we learn from countries where we see Rwanda, we see Finland, where it looks like women even outnumber men in positions of power? What are they doing that we should be doing?
Thank you very much. So that's exactly what electors doing, because what we're doing is it has to be backed by evidence, right? So first of all, there's overwhelming evidence to show that there is more development when women get into politics. So that's the first thing. But what countries like Rwanda and Kenya and Finland and all these countries many years ago did was that they had quota systems. So there is evidence to show that quota systems,
So you have to be deliberate
what
about
we
it.
call affirmative action, which is selective discrimination, right? It must happen because, as we have all alluded to, if you just leave it, it wouldn't happen. So the fact that you understand that this thing is skewed against women, and we must be deliberate to get more women involved. And before you know it, as I said, and so the second, so evidence, data shows that the second thing that works is role modeling. So what that means is the more people see women in leadership positions, the more they will vote women in leadership positions.
Okay.
So that's what we need to do.
Okay, just a final question to both of you. Let me start with you, Rebecca. 2023 is fast approaching. Like I said, we'll have a few elections coming up at those states, on those states. Of course, some more next year as we go along. How optimistic are you of the way things are going, that things might look different by 2023 with regards to women being in positions of power? Are you excited? Are you hopeful? Do you think it's still going to be more of the same?
Optimistic, and I would like to say that as much as the citizens of Nigeria are somewhat to be blamed for not accepting women for positions of authority, it's also not very visible for the women to come out on election year. Because, preparing for political office is like a whole process. But one of the things that I see in Nigeria especially is that we always come out when it's election year. I mean, you don't have to come out and say, I'm going to be the senator for my constituency in 2023, but you have to be doing something so that when you come out in a system that is already against you, some people know you already. But what usually happens is you see a banker who's just been banking, and then election year, you see her on the poster, and that doesn't really help. So for me, I think if we're saying that we want to be in power, then we need to start preparing for these things ahead of time, way ahead of time, even more than the men.
So be more deliberate, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. Abosede, what are you hopeful? Are you excited? Are you more of the same? And like you said, what should women start doing now?
So I'm not hopeful. We're doing the work, right? So Electa is going to get women to decide, to run, and to win.
How?
We are going to change things in 2023. How? I like that. So there are a few things we need to do. As much as we can, we need constitutional reform, right? And there is already a proposal on the table for 35% women's political representation, because this is already contained in Nigeria's national gender policy, right? Since 2003, but it has never been implemented, right? At best, we've had 7.6% in this country. So constitutional reform, we need electoral reform. And if we can get a bill passed, because there is a gender and equal opportunities bill on the floor of the Senate as we speak as well, also recommending 35% women's representation in elective and appointive office. Those are some of the things we need to do. If INEC can also get parties to make this something that they adopt, then we need to do that. And we then continue doing the work we do in identifying the women, right? Encouraging them to decide, equipping them to run, and enabling them with money and ensuring
how do
that
you do
they win.
enabling? Because that money is
we will. So it's very interesting that Rebecca mentioned crowdsourcing. So those are some of the things that we plan to do to ensure that we have. So we're planning. Electa is actually going to raise a $10 million fund to see that we support 1,000 women to run in 2023. Now, bear in mind that 1,000 women will not even put us at 10%. There are over 11,000 elective offices in this country, as you said, from ward level to presidency, right? But we're saying 1,000. So it doesn't even get us to 10%, but we want to start from somewhere.
Thank you very much, Abosede. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for joining us from London. Amazing conversation. We're all hopeful.
Yes.
We have to keep up alive and hope that
And we have to do the work.
Change.
We need men as allies as well.
I am an ally, always
Absolutely.
an ally. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break
you.
now and we'll be right back. Please don't go away. All right, welcome back now. I'm being joined to have a very amazing conversation, I believe, by an absolute icon who has been part of our lives for decades, entertaining us and educating us in the process. I have here with me Joke Silva. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
And let me start with what's on everybody's minds, of course, these days, which is the COVID, coronavirus, and the lockdown. How were you able to navigate life through the last couple of months?
Lockdown. Staying home as much as possible.
Yeah.
Trying to obey all the health protocols about, sanitizing hands, washing hands, sanitizing, washing, and masking.
Yeah.
All those things, yes. And of course, social distancing.
Very, very important. I ask that because there's a belief that people in entertainment or actors tend to be very restless because you're very creative. You're constantly looking for what next to do, what creative sort of juice to expel. So how were you able to stay and not work or just express yourself creatively?
No, it wasn't stay at not work. I think I've done more work in these last couple of months, especially the access to Zooming.
Yes.
Zooming has become very oppressive.
And intrusive.
Because now once people know that they can Zoom call you, it's a case of... I remember once I was on Zoom from like 9 a.m. in the morning till, with just short breaks in between, till 9 at night. And I said, no, this is harassment.
Because they feel they can get you anytime or anywhere.
Yes,
There's really
yes.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson you think you've taken out of this last couple of months?
I think for me, the most fascinating thing is the fact that the Lord's mercy on us as a nation is incredible.
Yeah.
At the moment, I know that the government is working very hard to improve the fragility of our health system, It's going to take a while. It shouldn't take too long, by God's grace. It's going to... And we have not had the incredible numbers of fatalities that the rest of the world was expecting.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's God's mercy. That we are really under God's mercy.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't obey all the health protocols.
Or start slacking now.
Yes, we really need to.
Yeah.
We really need
I agree with you because I say that every week when I'm here. I need to remind people that there's still a virus out there literally killing people. And people need to be very mindful of that.
It's really sad, the numbers that we have lost. But by God's grace, we will not lose anymore.
How's Uncle Olu doing?
He's doing very well. He's doing very well.
Yeah, very good to know that. Let's go to your industry now, which you've been a pioneer of and been a part of.
A pioneer. Then where will you put the Mama T's at the time when I license on whose soldiers we stand?
Yeah, well
I'm very close to that generation.
Exactly. So I guess that's what I mean. You've been a part of it for a very long time, and it's gone through so many evolutions over time. The 90s came with its own sort of new home video swing to things, and then the DVD started, and now we're in a cinema era where things are starting to look like structure might be coming in some way, even if it's not deliberate. It looks like organically things are starting to look in place. The Netflixes are arriving. There's more eyeballs on the industry. How are you feeling about the way things are now compared to when you started? Because sometimes people say, "Oh, there's nostalgia back in the days." How do you feel about then and now?
Well, I think for those who have that sense of nostalgia, I'd like to say that, yes, there was a time when, we had incredible, well-thought-out stories. Those times have come back.
Yeah.
People are beginning to tell well-thought-out stories for the camera. Okay. There was a time when you would think that, these stories are being told for the theater. A lack of use of, the camera to tell the story. Yes. But that's improving, we're actually telling well-structured stories. So that sense of nostalgia, no, it's not there anymore. I mean, one just sees that there's an incredible possibilities, you know, especially with all the platforms available. And I know that, you know, anybody who is in this field right now, there's just so much work. If you're good at your work and if you're dedicated, there's a lot of work.
Yeah. You look at there's a lot of new people in the industry. Now. Younger people are making their way in,
which is wonderful.
Much more than in the past when the profession was seen a certain way. Now people are more eager to say, I want to be an actor.
Yes.
There's also the fear that that's opened up the window to all sorts of people coming in. Are you excited by what you see? Are you cautious? Are you nervous? What do you see with the new guard?
I think what's interesting about the era that we're in now, which I really like, because around the time when I came into the industry, those who were before me couldn't really work solely as creatives. They had to have something, even though their main passion was for this industry. So if you're looking at people like, I think, Auntie Bidun Allison, who was on Village Headmaster. If I remember rightly, she was also a banker. Yes. You know, so you know, late Uncle Jabadu, you know, I think he was also a banker. You know, so there were a lot of but gradually, you know, with more work, people started focusing on being performers. Now, but then there were very few of us, you know, that were strictly performers, that were strictly within the creative space. And then you just, all of a sudden, you then have the next generation where you have the Kate Henshaws, the Rita Dominics, the Bimbo Akitolas, and you know, that generation. And then after that, you don't even know the names anymore. I mean, apart from people like Lala and all that, you know, but there are just so many people now. Which is nice, which is good, because that then says to us that, yes, you have a profession. Some money at least is now coming in. It's not only that it is a profession. There is a profession, there is a livelihood, there's a pathway. So that's exciting. Now, because the entry level is low, yes, you do get all comers. You do get people who, I mean, I was very shocked when I heard of some people who just come into the industry. They just come in so that they can be seen, they can be known, and then
segue into other things.
And I'm like, this profession that I'm giving my life away, you know. So hopefully there are a lot of things that are being done to make sure that we reduce that. We have more focused people within the industry.
Who are very deliberate about what they do. I know you are very passionate about theatre and live performances. And there's always, I don't know that I hear it very often anymore, but in the past there was always the talk about, you know, some of the best actors always started on stage. Or had to have some stage background within them. We don't seem to see that very often anymore. Do you think that's a problem for the craft?
I really do.
Okay.
But I mean, that's you know, that's what I think. That's what I believe. I think it's very important. Till today, if you look at globally, the most successful, whether be it film or TV series, just check it. Whether it's their writers, their cinematographers, their actors, everybody has a theatre background. You know, there's just something about having that theatre training, those skills, that helps you with the analysis of scripts, that helps you with your interpretation, because that's who we are as actors. As actors, we are interpreters of, you know, the works of the writers, of directors, and things like that. So the more, I think, for us in Nigeria, the more skills we have, you know, the basic training of theatre training in all areas, whether be it script writing, be it in directing, be it in acting, the better our work will be.
It would definitely reflect. Let me put you on the spot. Theatre or film?
I love both. I honestly, I love both, and I'll tell you why. The thing is that theatre has its own challenges, you know, the immediacy of theatre, but the beauty of theatre is that you tend to spend so many weeks rehearsing, all right, and you know you form that camaraderie with the rest of the team. Of course, it's very immediate. So if anything goes wrong, you have to be very quick on your feet, and improvise and all that. But that's for theatre. But the challenge for film and for camera work is that it can be so cold. It can be so cold. There's very little feedback, so you really have to be very zoned in to the character that you're playing to deliver properly for a short space of time. And then you spend so long waiting for them to set up for the next scene.
Whilst staying in character.
And sometimes you come out of character and then they tell you, oh, okay, we're ready to go. And then you find that space and get into character again.
Yeah.
So they both have their challenges, and I love them both. Yeah.
Something that I know you're very passionate about now, which is one of the reasons you're here, of course. When you mentioned, the fact that more people are focused on being just creatives and not necessarily having side gigs, like we say these days. The money conversation always comes up. And one thing that I know Nollywood has been criticized for a lot recently, or not too recently even, is the fact that a lot of people who've gone through the profession end up, we see all of these things on social media, people asking for funds when they fall sick or they catch a certain ailment, and it's become a recurring question. Is it that money is not being made? Is there no insurance for these people? Why is it so regular almost for people, especially in your generation, who have gone through the industry for so long and should have acquired a certain amount of wealth, not able to sustain their health? Why do you think that is, and what is happening now?
Okay. Ebuka. That's a really damn question. Okay, but let me try and answer you.
Yeah.
I think it's three-pronged. The answer to it would be three-pronged. First is the fact that people are not budgeting properly, as far as I'm concerned. When we budget, we just budget for returns on investment, not realizing that a lot of, especially, and I'll focus, because that's my area, focus on the actors, not realizing that the people who bring your work to the public are the actors. They are they sell the brand of whatever the film is. It's the actors. And, so there's this thinking that, an actor does two weeks of work and gets paid between 500,000 and 800,000 naira, That's fantastic. Now, what people fail to remember is that actor has to pay his rent from that, has to pay the school fees from that, has to pay health, all kinds of things from that. And he may not get another job
for quite a while.
All right? And so the other parts of the world that have thought about other ways of monetizing what the actor has done. Yes, they have filmed it for me, but the life of a film is forever. So you can keep exploiting it and exploiting it and exploiting it. And when you're exploiting it, especially your leads, they should get returns from that exploitation. Do you understand? Yeah. So that's one. So in other words, the payment system needs to be looked at again. The fees, the remuneration, we really need to look at that again. Now, the other area is that because of that, now what I said feeds into the next reason, which is the fact that now because you know that this is all I'm making from this, so what used to happen and what did happen with a lot of my generation is that you just went from film set, and it's still going on actually, go from film set to film set to film set, from job to job to job to job, and it tells on the body. You're supposed to earn enough from the couple that you do, so that you have a rest in between, because unlike you, it's almost like you are the machine that's doing the job, unlike other things that are, put to sleep. Start and stop. It's you, and you're on all the time. So, of course, that tells on the health. So that is why for years, the various executives of the Actors Guild of Nigeria had been searching for some kind of insurance scheme that would take care of health insurance. Okay. But unfortunately, a lot of those that are in existence couldn't understand the challenge of the actors. For them, they felt that, this was the structure that they had. You had to pay everything up front, before they can, and that doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for us. We're like contract workers, so you cannot, I may have a job this month, I may not work for another 3 months. You do understand? But I may get like 3 gigs this month. Do you understand? So there's nothing certain. So we were able, but this particular set of executives, headed by Emeka Rollas, who is the president of the current president of Actors Guild of Nigeria, was able to come across an HMO called Medicard, who do what you call retail insurance, retail HMO, in which you can pay on a monthly basis. The various cadres of premiums are within reach of the different cadres of actors. That's number one. Also, for those who then can't even fit into the lowest cadre, we've already set up a trust fund for them, so that we can assist. Whatever they pay, then we add to it. And then another trust fund has been set up for those who cannot be covered with the current HMO scheme because they are already ill. So the 3 categories are covered, yes. With Medicard HMO, what we have, I need to look here now. Yeah. The lowest cadre is the 1,850, and that covers practically everything, And so you have access to 600 hospitals. Yes, 600 hospitals nationwide. You have, and it's not only treatment, but the drugs are inclusive. Then you have group life insurance under that cover. You have kidney transplant abroad, discount per, and then now the beauty of this particular HMO is the fact that it's not only health but also lifestyle. So you can go to a butcher's and get a discount. Wow. So
sorry, this is open to all actors?
All actors, whether you're an actor for stage, film, or television, you're even a voice actor. Wow. As long as you're an actor, you do not even have to be a member of Actors Guild. However, you will pass through Actors Guild before you get to it.
Okay, so you have to be a registered member of the Actors Guild to access this?
No, you don't. It's open to all actors, whether you're registered with Actors Guild or not. However, if you're not registered with Actors Guild, you still have to pass through Actors Guild.
To get access to this?
To get access.
Is there any way we can get information quickly?
Yes, you can go
through
on
the
their
Actors Guild of Nigeria?
Through Actors Guild of Nigeria, on the website, yes, on our website, Actors Guild of Nigeria website, you'll get more information. And then, like I said, there are different cadres of premiums. And one of the premiums is about 6,000 and something.
I think I'm definitely impressed. I heard 1,000 something, and I think that already sold me. I think that's absolutely amazing. So if you're an actor out there, make sure you have your... This is for you. I even want to go and act now so that I can tap into this. Thank you very much for this amazing piece of information, and looking forward to all of the great things that you'll be doing in the industry.
Thank you.
I have one request before we go.
Yes,
I know the late Amaka Egwe is not here anymore with us, but can we get a sequel again of Violated, do you think?
Well, Amaka is not here, and she created Violated. But Ego Boyo is around.
I'll take that as a yes.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed. You have told me, and I'm happy.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being here today. Looking forward to all the actors being a part of this. Please make sure you don't miss this opportunity. It's absolutely amazing. And thank you for doing all the great things you do.
Thank you.
We'll take a break now, and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
We represent some
All right, welcome back. Now we're going to be switching our conversation, talking about social justice. I mean, we touched on it last week when we had a conversation about young people. We're going to still be talking about young people, but focusing now more on women. And I have here with me Biron Keolurotimi. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Social justice is, I feel like every Nigerian has something to say about access to just what should be basic. Everywhere else in the world. We're talking about healthcare, education, these things a lot of countries are even free. Here we pretend sometimes that it's free, but sometimes it's not even accessible or available. Like I said, last week we had a conversation about young people and accessibility to social justice. Women seems to be a whole other conversation even, for things like this. Where do you think we are in Nigeria today, especially 21 years after democracy?
Okay, so I would say that Nigeria is a very peculiar nation, and if you look at, like you said, from the introduction of what we'll be talking about, if you look at the representation of women in the different strata, from government to business and to every sector, you find out that the representation of women is still relatively low, and of course you cannot. You can't dissect that from the fact that a lot more girls in Nigeria do not even have access to education, right? So if you look at the statistics that we have, Nigeria has about the largest population of out-of-school children, and I'm sure that a very high percentage of that population, they are girls. So if girls do not even have access to what we call basic education, they do not have a voice, so to speak, in policy making and all of that, it is very difficult for us to say that we have a country where people have equal access, because if you look at services like education and healthcare, for instance, we're still grappling with a very high deficit in terms of our budgetary allocations and all of that. And of course, all of these things will trickle down to, because women are, in the first place, women are disadvantaged, so to speak. Because, I was discussing with someone some time back, and they were saying, we have a lot of women and girls-focused intervention. I'm saying that we are actually at a point where it looks like it's like we're in redemption mode, where everybody's trying to do something for women, because we feel that women have been so disenfranchised, disadvantaged and marginalized, and we need to bring women up to speed with the conversations, with the things that are happening. So women, because if you also look at the population of the African continent, for instance, now we have about almost 50% of the population are women, and we know how much value that these women can provide in terms of business, in terms of our GDP, and so many other things like that women can bring to the table. But when these women are not even educated, they don't have the voice, how do they contribute to this sustainable development that we all are looking to achieve, as a country and as a continent?
Yeah, I mean, healthcare is always a very big conversation and a big touching point for me, especially in Nigeria. Something as basic as primary healthcare even has been shown to be so flawed on so many levels, and I think unfortunately with the coronavirus, a lot of these things were exposed. Where just access to basic healthcare is not even there, and like you said, more so for women. Maternal mortality here is still. So it's heartbreaking to see the numbers sometimes. You just want to have a child and it's almost like a death sentence for a lot of people. We're talking about social justice now, and young people and women being able to speak up and demand for change and all of this. Do you think that we're doing enough to hold government accountable for all of these things we've mentioned? Last week we talked about young people just being called keypad warriors. We sit on Twitter and Instagram and make all the noise, but when it comes to coming out to actually demand change, we don't seem to do that enough, especially more so for women. Are you happy with the way we sort of react to these things as Nigerians?
Okay, so I would say that, of course, I am not happy with the way, things are going and the way we are reacting to the things that are happening around us. But I would also say that we are, first of all, citizens, of this country before we would say, I'm a man or I'm a woman. And I feel like men are aggravated as much as, women are aggravated with the kind of society that we have, today. So, but what I would like to say, because the truth is, I work in the education sector, and I see a lot of things happen. I know things that happen in the grassroots, especially when it comes to basic education and all of that. I see how
the education system is even flawed in the first place, either for a girl child or a boy child. The system is just wonky in some kind of way. And because our society is the type that is, we're kind of elitist, even though some of us will try to say, oh, that's not true, but we're kind of, our society is built like that. Like, we're really kind of elitist where someone's child is attending a certain school. There are private schools. One is attending a private school. You call that a low-fee private school, and you call another one a high-fee private school. And then there are public schools. So if you look at that dynamics, you see that there's a lot of issues already in that kind of mix. Like you said about the health sector, also there is a lot of things that have been exposed due to this COVID-19 pandemic that we've seen. And we see that our system, our healthcare system, is not strong enough to even handle the kind of cases that some developed countries or even some developing countries are handling. Yeah. So I will say that young people need to come together. So for instance now, we know that by 2022 now, we'll be planning for another election year in 2023. Young people need to come together. We need to stop being keypad warriors, so to speak. We need to stop being Instagram warriors where we just go and shout and we don't do anything. So if we have young people who are going into government, because you know that young people are also still grappling with the high cost of political campaigns. To start with even. So young people need to come together as a collaborative, unifying force where they would form some kind of force so that they can have participation in government. Because the truth is, the world over, the world is gradually moving away from just having old people in government. We need some kind of youth-inclusive government such that we need the experience of the old people, but of course, we also need the vibrancy and the energy of the young people. So we need that very important mix. Yeah. And we cannot take away the place of human capital development, and that speaks to education. Yes. So if in 2020, we're still stuck on having our budgetary allocation to education at about a little above 6%, then there's still a problem. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you in there, because education is key to a lot of these things we're talking about. You work in the education sector. Sometimes there's a conversation, is it a responsibility of the state government or the federal government? Well, take your demands to your state government and let them deal with it and all of that, you look at the way things are run today. Do you see even sort of signs of things changing anytime soon? Because the education today is a reflection of what the next 15, 20 years of this country will look like. Are you hopeful that things might even start looking different anytime soon?
Okay, I would say I am hopeful. Hopeful because if you look around, despite the inefficiencies of government and the things that we've talked about earlier, we find out that you still find a lot of young people coming up with innovation, coming up with ways of solving these social problems that we already have, like poverty, the place of education, and so many other sectors like that. So it means that the potential is there. So what we need is an atmosphere or an enabling environment, so to speak, where young people can thrive. Young people have these solutions. Government partners with them to help amplify or to help scale these particular innovations that they have in place to help better the society. So I think that there is hope, but it means that every active citizen, young and old alike, must begin to take responsibility. We must be involved in building the nation of our dreams. Yes. So we can't just leave everything to the government to say, the government is going to provide free education, free healthcare, free everything. We also need to take responsibility, both young people and old people alike.
Thank you very much for that amazing way to close this off. And I hope everybody who's concerned is listening. The future is ours, and I hope we don't ruin it with the way things are going today. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you so much, Ebuka.
Well, like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter at Rubbin Minds now is the handle. Please use the hashtag Rubbin Minds when you tweet at us. I'll see you next Sunday.
Hey.